on all of the shiny switches. Here we go, 5000 Whiskey Sierra 834.
V1. Rotate.
Alright, over to Unicom now. So, let's talk about our arrival, because it's a little bit out of the ordinary. We'll check the weather really quickly here. Hang on, let me pull up active sky. This guy. And... okay, so, Salzburg. The surface wind 100 at 3, that is not a factor, that's calm winds. What I'm looking at, actually 3,000 is not a factor, 6,000 is not a... basically, the winds are calm enough that we can shoot either approach, and that's kind of the point today. We're going to shoot for the RNAV, which turns to visual, so it's the RNAV visual for runway 33. And this is according to my charts, which are out of date, extremely out of date, insanely out of date, medium out of date. I'm having a look at the date here. Medium out of date. So, anyways. So, QNH 1018 over there, blah, 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 dew point 12, temperature 18, cloudy. There's few at 4,500, broken at 95. So, our ceiling is at 9,500. And that's what's going to make it interesting. The cloud layer, the higher-ish altitude of the airfield, but the terrain is going to be our big factor. So, we're going to step out of, or we're going to switch from weather radar to terrain radar as we approach. We're still climbing now. We're reaching our cruise level. Looks like we're just going to skirt around most of it and fly over top most of that activity there. What I want to do is if we put this into plan and then start making our way down the flight plan, our final waypoint is Bandit, okay? So from Bandit, what we want is, what I'm going to do is go to arrival, and we're going to take the... it's not the RNAV 15. Is it the RNAV 15? No, sorry. It's the RNAV 33, but it doesn't really exist anymore in the ARAC cycles. So what we're going to do is we're going to build it ourselves. So we're going to select runway 33. It's the Bandit 1 Romeo, which takes us to the Salzburg VOR, which is fine-ish. So we'll leave that in for now. So we're going from Bandit, we're going to Salzburg, like so. From Salzburg, I'm going to zoom in a little bit on the ND so we can all see it here. And maybe I'll zoom in my view as well. Oops. We've got to enter the waypoints in this RNAV arrival. So, from Salzburg, the first waypoint on this arrival is Whiskey Sierra 831. So, Whiskey Sierra 831. Oops, sorry. Like so. I think that's right next to Salzburg. Yeah, okay, so that's right next to Salzburg. How far is it? Just step down one. Yeah, it's like less than a quarter of a mile. So we'll go to Whiskey Sierra 831. From there, we're going to go to Whiskey Sierra 833. Whiskey Sierra 833. So this is the infamous chart I was talking about, speaking of earlier. So the transition altitude 6,000. The Salzburg VOR, which we're inbound to eventually, is somewhere around here. And then Whiskey Sierra 831. At or above 5,000, and then we're going to go 5 miles over down here to Whiskey Sierra 834. And you can see this is the FAF, or final approach fix. It's at or above 5,000. I plan on being 5,000 here, simply because at the FAF, if you're at 5,000, it's literally a 3-degree glide slope all the way down through the turn. So the RNAV section carries us through to Whiskey Sierra 834. Then we've plugged in 835 and 836 and 837, although we will be hand flying it. So I aim to be fully configured for landing at 834 with the gear down, flaps full, etc., etc., etc. We'll fly down 3-degree glide slope over 835, over 836, and this is the one that I wanted to overfly, simply because if we enter these two waypoints into the FMS, it's basically going to try to cut the corner, and then we'll end up a little bit short. So overfly 836, then start the turn, over to 837, and then inbound to runway 33. Here's what it looks like in the vertical profile. Our missed approach would be 835. That's where our minimum descent altitude goes into. So if we don't have visual with the runway and if things are not looking good, then from 835 we make a right-hand turn and direct to 831. I'm going to set that up into the FMC as well. So yeah, any kind of aircraft, it's the minimums are the same. And that's pretty much it for the approach chart. I just wanted to look, and here we see the terrain on the left-hand side, a little bit of terrain on the right-hand side, and we're basically going to be skirting down and making kind of like a visual base leg, or a visual downwind and then a base leg, and then kind of turning into the runway. I'm going to put my TCAS into. There we go. So that's in, and then from there we have to be at or above 5,000 there, so that's fine. Then we'll continue to Whiskey Sierra 834. So Whiskey Sierra 834. This is essentially the transition from the RNAV arrival to basically we need to be fully manual and fully configured at this point. Well, I want to be fully configured, but we need to be manual at this point. So Whiskey Sierra 83, no, sorry, it's Whiskey Sierra 834 or 835? Yeah, 834. So from here, we need to be at 5,000? Yeah, let's go to 5,000 like so. Altitude constraint, like so. So 834 is in. Then we go to Whiskey Sierra 835, but flying it manually. Whiskey Sierra 835, and descending at a 3-degree glide slope, essentially. 835, this is another thing about this, is it's got to be overflown. So how do we do that? No. Oh yeah, right, I remember. Okay, so you go to flight plan. Basically, we don't want to turn before it, because what the FMS, what the computer tries to do, is if you give it kind of like 835, and then... No, okay, so it's the next one. 835... We want to be at, we want to be descending at this point. So 836 is the next one. That's the one I wanted to talk about. Whiskey Sierra 836. This is the one that has to be overflown because this is where essentially the turn begins. So we're overflying 836, and then we can put in Whiskey Sierra 837, which is a runway heading, and that's about 1.4 miles away from the field. So we'll clear the discontinuity. And now we have, there we go. So if I zoom out, we're gonna be coming in from here, from the north. We're gonna be coming southbound. 834 is where we take it manually, and we'll put it into track FPA. We'll arm ourselves a 3-degree glide. Head on down, manually fly it following the birdie, which you'll see in a bit, to 835, 836. We must overfly 836. If we didn't program that overfly into 836, what essentially would happen was the computer would go, oh, well, you want to go this away? Well, just cut the corner kind of thing. No. We need the distance. So we need to overfly 836 and then come back around for 837 and then land at Salzburg. So that's the plan. The transition at Salzburg is 6, so we can go ahead and put that in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do the whole approach phase right now. So next phase, QNH is 1018, like so. The temperature is 18. The wind is basically calm. We'll put it in anyway. 1003. 3 knots is pretty much nothing. Transition I said was 6, like so. And we are doing a full config landing. So we'll take 1.3. I'm going to do 1.36 because a lot of these speeds are 1.45 or less. That's good. That's good. Barrow. The minimums are, standby, 3980. 3980. I'm glad I'm not doing this in the 737 because that would have taken forever to scroll. So we've got a V approach of 136, landing speed of 128. It's a full config landing, and that's basically, whoa, that's bright. And that's basically it. So we are, how far into the cruise are we? Okay, we still got quite a bit of time for till top of descent. So I will catch you a little bit later on in the flight. It should be pretty uneventful. It's pretty. We're not very high up. But other than that, standard Airbus flight, which I've done a couple of times on my videos, so I won't bore you with all of that. Why isn't that? Alright, whatever. So we'll catch each other a little bit closer to top of descent. This should prove to be very, very interesting. All right, we're coming up to our top of descent, less than 10 miles. Yep. So we'll dial it down to 5, as that is our minimum descent altitude essentially for the RNAV procedure. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit it just a skosh early, and we will also get the seatbelt signs on. There we go. Still monitoring the weather radar at this point. We'll switch it to terrain as we approach, just keeping an eye on this front off the left-hand side here. And that's pretty much it. So we're on our way down. We're headed towards Badit, and then from Badit we're going to Salzburg, and then from Salzburg. You know what I'm probably going to do is hang on. Because Salzburg is so very close to Whiskey Sierra, what was it, 831, which is one of our waypoints. What I'm going to do is we will go back up the flight plan. Essentially, this is kind of redundant here to have Salzburg. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete Salzburg as a waypoint, and we'll just go from. Oops, I lost it. We'll go from Badit directly to Whiskey Sierra 831. So, come on. There we go. We'll do that, and we'll do that. There we go. It'll give us a nice, a better descent profile and a little bit less of a convoluted way of getting to Whiskey Sierra 831. So, but what I can do is put Salzburg into the nav radio. So we will do. Hang on. S. We want that. There we go. And what else can we tune in here? Is there an NDB? Maybe we can. Let me have a quick check at the charts just to give us a little bit more of a situational awareness. So it turns out there's the Salzburg NDB, which is on 410. So we can go ahead and put that into our ADF2. There we go. And we will switch this to ADF. So we're 29 miles away from the Salzburg VOR, and I will go ahead and plug in the QNH, which is 1018, like so. There we go. Gives us a little bit more accurate of a descent profile. Can't see them quite. Oh, well, you can start to see the terrain right over here to the right-hand side of the aircraft. Basically headed in a this early direction in the immediate future. That's not the direction I wanted to go. Well, cycle through the views here. There we go. So yeah, the stormy front, the terrible weather just off to our left-hand side looks pretty good. I mean, this isn't painting here, but we'll have to keep an eye on that. We'll switch from the weather radar to our terrain as we get below this cloud layer here. There is one last thing I do want to mention, is that on the charts we've got max indicated airspeed 145 at Whiskey Sierra 836. Now, if it left to its own devices, the FMC is kind of just going to have us slowly decelerate down to the final, but we want to intervene that, and we want the speed constraint over at Whiskey Sierra 136. It's going to take that into account when we're descending. So manual point at 834 at 5,000, and then the 3-degree glide from there in FPA. time to get serious. As we approach 6,000, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring flaps 1. We are going to enable TrackIR, like so. We are going to, whoops, nope, that's not what I wanted. I wanted to arm los speed brakes, and we will select auto brake low. Haze layer coming in, that's always nice, but we are visual. There's the field. So we want to be fully manual by 834. What I'm going to do is we'll keep it at 5 for now. I'm going to bring up flaps 2. We are going to bring the gear out. And flaps full. A little bit of an odd haze layer glitch with the forgot to turn these on. Go ahead and put on all of the shiny switches. Here we go, 5,000 Whiskey Sierra 834. And what we will do is turn this to FPA. Come on. There we go. And now we just follow the birdie. It's 1,400. Nope. Like so. And we just follow the little birdie here, and we should be all right. I'm gonna pitch up just a little bit. We're following also the guidance here, the vertical guidance. 1200 is a little bit steep on that descent rate. We're going to be following this more for lateral navigation. That is checked. 835 coming up. We will overfly 836.
Minimum.
And do we have visual? Yes, we do. Landing. Right on track here. Nice 600 foot per minute descent. We're bang on the what the FMS is essentially calculating as our descent rate, and we're just waiting for that turn. So once we overfly 36, we'll make our right-hand sweeping turn to final. Field's right over here on the right. Everything's looking good. Speed is 145 max, but we're pretty much configured now for landing. Winds are nice and calm, so that's good. That's helping me out here a little bit. Just pitch down just a skosh. We don't want to be too high. We don't want to be low, as you can probably figure from the terrain around here. That's another thing I want to put on. Terrain on ND would be very, very nice. Still a little bit high. We'll probably lose quite a bit of altitude in this turn here. So that's where something like TrackIR comes in handy. So we'll begin our right-hand turn now, as we are overflying 836. Basically just follow the birdie. Follow the birdie. It's going to be a little bit more of a turn than that. There we go. Looking for the runway, still nothing. Pitch up just a skosh. Don't want to descend too fast. There we are. Looking good. And there's the field.
1,000.
Getting a little bit low. Don't want to be low.
1,000. 1,000.
Radio altimeter's going nuts. Not the most sweeping of turns. We're still a little bit high. It's good fun, though. Still a little bit high. Gotta pitch down just a skosh. Follow the birdie. Definitely cut that a little bit on the short side. What are you gonna do? Not sure if that's Aerosoft's fault or my fault for the Airbus, but probably my fault. I mean, who are we kidding here? Come on.
300.
Whoop. Sink rate. And roll out of the turn.
200.
There we go. Up a little bit. A little bit to the right, left, rather. Keep that descent coming.
70,
Whoop. That
60,
was a little too much
50,
on the...
40, 30, 20. Retard, retard, retard.
Correcting. Definitely going to float it. Oh, that wasn't too bad. A little bit on an angle there. And forgive me for my centerline tracking. But definitely good fun. Trying to narrate and do all these things at the same time, I'm using that as my excuse. Because why not? But yeah, no, definitely good fun. I'm getting more and more use out of this Salzburg scenery than I initially anticipated. And it's proven to be challenging and interesting. And you know what? Maybe I might do this in the 737 as well, which would be probably good fun, entering all that into the FMS and then kind of just hand flying that one in. But either way, we made it down safely. Something landing you can walk away from. So, you know, there's that. Put that to taxi. Oops. Nope. Turn those off. Turn that off. Strobes can come off. And we will go ahead and vacate here to the left. And I've already covered this scenery at least once on my videos, so... you know, we'll do a little bit of glamour shots, and I just kind of felt like flying today. Had a little bit of spare time, and decided to get some use out of Frankfurt and a little bit out of Salzburg. On a very clear day, this scenery here is absolutely spectacular. Really, really is. The mountains and... you know, it's a very impressive place. I hope to visit this place in real life at some point, just because the view is scenic, and anywhere around the Alps, as I mentioned in my previous video, is just absolutely breathtaking. So we'll just taxi up here to one of the stands, get shut down, and be on our way for lunch in Salzburg. It's actually more like dinner time, I think. It's, what is it, 17:29 Zulu? Yeah, more like dinner time. Early dinner. Early bird dinner. So let's clean up the aircraft, taxi on in, and have some dinner. Save the company just a skosh of gas. Do a single engine taxi in, because why not? Ground crew somewhere over here. I think it's Whiskey 8. That 737, and here is our parking. Taxi light can go off. Transponder as well. Oh cool, is that a DC-3? Yeah, it looks like a DC-3. Awesome. Swing it around here to the right. like so. Which is hard to do because we've got the right engine running and the left one shut down, but not the ideal. If I had been a little bit smarter, I probably would have shut down number 2 instead of number 1 because of this final turn, but oh well. A little bit extra power. Come on. Use my cheaty little view. There's the parking brake, and APU is on. Let's go ahead and... Come on. There we go. Well, that just about wraps up our trip to Salzburg. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I did flying. We'll know for next time, maybe to give it a 3 count before starting the turn. I think I want to try it out in the 737, and I know I want to try it out in the dash. Those will be for another video, though. So until next time, I wish you blue skies, tailwinds, and I'll see you in the next episode.